3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street for the first time in 2024. Welcome on in to the Zach Gelb Show, but where else on CBS Sports Radio across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. Happy New Year. I said it to you once. It's the last time I'm going to say it to you. That is a big pet peeve of mine when you start to get like a day or two past New Year's, and then it's like for a week or even a month or 2 months people start to go Happy New Year each and every day. So this is not me just being obnoxious. This is not me being angry to start the new year. I give you a heartfelt Happy New Year. It happens once, and then we move on and we get to the sports as we have so much to get to today. You can always give me a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Interact with me on the good old cesspool of Twitter or on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We got a full house today. Stuart Kovacs, welcome on back for a day. We got Moist Mike as well. We're rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Greg McElroy, who is the former Alabama quarterback, was also on the call last night for Washington and Texas, is going to stop by an hour from now. And I'm in a elated mood today. If you listen to this show, you know I root and cheer for the Michigan Wolverines. I don't dislike Alabama for years. I've loved Nick Saban. I still love Nick Saban as a head football coach, but getting to know some of those guys on the Michigan football team through the show, like Chris Jenkins and Blake Corum and Roman Wilson, I am just thrilled for not only them, but also a lot of the alums of Michigan that I know. And two of them are my closest friends. And I was watching with about like 15 to 20 Michigan alums yesterday. And what a scene that was in them going to the Rose Bowl and taking down Alabama in what was a sloppy but close, hard-hitting, and really fun football game where ultimately Michigan's defense prevailed, and also a lot of questionable decisions by Alabama. We'll get to that in a second. And then in the other game, hey, I was happy because I heard Hickey was taking Alabama to win the game. So the moment I heard that, I put a lot of money down, in Zach Gelb betting world, a lot of money. It's not like Dave Portnoy or something like that. But I did take the Wolverines -2.5, never a doubt. And then I told you all week, Washington continues to get disrespected left and right. And to see them after being a 9.5-point underdog to Oregon, win that game outright and didn't really have to sweat it out, even though it got a little bit close at the end. And then to go up against Texas, where Washington, if you watch college football this year, no disrespect to Texas, had a remarkable season, Washington should have been the favorite in this game. And I was getting 4.5 points, so I parlayed that together with Michigan then -2.5 on the money line. I forget what I did, and I ended up winning 2 bets. But if you listen to this show, you know that we're friendly with Kalen DeBoer, and I'm elated now because this is what transpires when you get to a national championship game. Your whole life story gets untold. And we now get to see, and it unfolds, and you get to see it be told to everyone. Now everyone's going to understand the crazy career of Kalen DeBoer, where as a baseball player, when he was in college, he had 520 his senior season. Let me say that again. He had 520 his senior season as a baseball player at Sioux Falls. And oh yeah, by the way, he was the all-time leading receiver in receptions, receiving yards, and then also touchdowns. So just that alone would be a remarkable accomplishment. Then becomes the head coach of Sioux Falls, goes 67-3. Wins 3 NAIA championships, and then, oh yeah, by the way, goes to Fresno State. He goes 9-3 in his second year, gets the job at Washington. In the last 2 years, he's only had 2 losses, and now he coaches for a national championship on Monday night. So this is a phenomenal matchup. These are the 2 best teams in college football. We'll have all week, and assuming that the weather holds up and the airlines are good, I will be doing the show live Monday in Houston, and I'll be going to the game right after the show ends. But I just love this matchup between Michigan and Washington. And when you look at guys like Blake Corum and Michael Penix, I don't know if there are 2 better representatives that really display what college football is all about than the star running back for Michigan and the man that finished as the runner-up as the star quarterback for the Heisman Trophy for the Washington program than Blake Corum and Michael Penix. All righty, we will get to the national championship game throughout the week. But the 2 biggest takeaways and the 2 biggest talking points from both of these games was the play calling at the end by Tommy Rees and the coaching at the end by Nick Saban in the Alabama-Michigan game. And then also when you get into Texas and Washington had that thing gift wrap. It was won, and they almost blew the game at the end of the game, but they did not. Let's start with Alabama and Michigan. And I want to open it up, something that we rarely do, with some audio. Here is Nick Saban on the final play call. It was 4th and goal as Michigan was on defense, Alabama on offense, and Alabama, who was down by 7 because Corum put the ball in the end zone on Michigan's first drive in overtime. Alabama had to answer, and here was the play, and this was Saban talking about the final play against Michigan.
We called 3 plays. The fact that it didn't work made it a really bad call. But we called timeout because we had a bad look. We had a good look on the first one. They must have known it. But Tommy just felt like the best thing that we could do was have a quarterback run, which was kind of our 2-point play. But we didn't get it blocked, so it didn't work. We didn't execute it very well, and it didn't work. And they pressured, and we thought they would pressure, but we thought we could gap them and block them and make it work, and it didn't.
I actually have a different take than most people, because most of the people that I've heard talk about this have been obliterating the play call. I actually don't have a problem with the 4th and goal play call that Tommy Rees and Alabama dialed up at the 3. My biggest problem were the 3 plays before that, because you have Milroe, who Michigan could not stop for most of the day on the ground, and that was the difference in the second half. Once they started running the ball more with Milroe, Alabama, for a chunk of the second half, took control of the game. He picks up a big carry to get you down to the 9, and you don't use his legs on 1st down, 2nd down, or 3rd down. They didn't run the ball one time with Milroe after getting a big chunk by their quarterback to get you to 1st and goal at the 9. And you saved to use his legs until 4th down. I would have run him earlier in that sequence. But on the final play, I can't really crush the play call because it was an awful snap. And not only was it an awful snap, which was a problem for Alabama all throughout the game, and Milroe and the center were never on the same page, but the right tackle also got blown up by Josiah Stewart, who is a transfer from Coastal Carolina, and Milroe tripped over his lineman because Stewart, who does not have the weight advantage compared to the lineman, blew him right off the ball. And if you had to kind of say that's this game in a nutshell, it was that final play. And I guess you could argue, oh, maybe Milroe should have thrown the ball to the back. Maybe he should have followed the pulling right guard. But when you have a bad snap, you panic, especially when it's a bad snap with not only the game on the line, but your season on the line and a spot in the national championship game on the line. And when you panic, you go to what you do best, and that's to run the ball and bulldoze through people. So that's what Milroe did. And yeah, sure, I don't know what the other 2 play calls were. There was a timeout by Michigan, there was a timeout by Alabama, and then you heard from Nick Saban, right, the great coach himself, that they changed the play call the 2 times after the timeout. So they had 3 different plays. And the 3rd play, when you're at the 2 or 3 yard line and you're basically running your 2-point conversion plays, you only have so many of those plays. So there were other options on that play that maybe Milroe could have done better. But I'm not going to crush that 4th down play call because you had a Stewart blow up the play and the center caused chaos from the jump with a poor snap. So that's kind of my takeaway on that play. But it's the 3 plays prior to that where, for the life of me, I don't get it. Because I was watching that game, and even though I was rooting for Michigan, like objectively, I'm trying to watch that game, and I didn't understand the approach by Alabama. I thought they threw the ball too much in the first half, and then Milroe got going in the second half. They were never able to put the game away. Michigan, when they needed to get a drive, Harbaugh was as aggressive he could be, going for it on that 4th down and 2. And that was the right decision to do that. And you got the 1st down. You eventually get the Roman Wilson touchdown to tie up the game. And then in overtime, you knew it was going to be the Blake Corum show because you live and die based off your best player in a game like that. And Blake Corum carried that team to a victory. And for Alabama, their best offensive player is Jalen Milroe. And that's what I didn't like. It wasn't the fourth down play call, because as we've now discussed for the last few minutes, there was a lot of chaos that transpired on that play. But how do you go away from Milroe with back-to-back runs on first and second down with your running back? Then on third down, Milroe makes that pass, which good play by the Michigan defender to keep the receiver out of the end zone. And you wait all the way on fourth down after getting what I think was 15 to set up first and goal on the 9. You wait until fourth down to run the ball with your quarterback, which was your biggest strength on offense, not only in that game, but in this entire season when Alabama got going. So that's my problem with the decision-making. It was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting until your season was on the line on fourth down to run that football with Jalen Milroe. Now, in the entirety of the game, Alabama almost won the game off their brilliance on special teams. The punter was phenomenal in the game. The field goal kicker was phenomenal. But in the same breath as we praised the special teams for Alabama, I almost pulled my hair out with the punt return decisions by Michigan. Once you botch the first punt, I don't care where the ball is rolling to. Don't touch another punt. And then when you're trying to get the ball back late after your defense makes the stop, you put a new punt returner in there who has returned punts for them before this season, and he's backpedaling, and I'm like, oh no, that like TikTok song, oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no. And he dropped the ball. And thankfully, he picked up the ball at the 1 yard line, because even though he got blown back into the end zone, it's where you pick up the ball in the initial contact, not where you finish. But if he would have picked up that ball in the end zone, it would have been a safety, and that would have been maybe the most demoralizing way you could have ever lost a football game. So the special teams were enormous in this game, and Alabama, I thought the reason why they lost that game was really because in the trenches, they didn't dominate the game like they were expected to. That offensive line, I think it was Herb Street or Fowler, one of them said it's like bigger than a lot of the offensive lines in the NFL. How that offensive line got manhandled, and it wasn't even by the defensive linemen. Michigan used their speed by their linebackers and then also their safeties and their corners to get to the quarterback very easily. So I give Michigan's defensive game plan a lot of credit. And then when the game was starting to get away, they trusted their two best offensive players. And that was Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy to carry that team. So that was a sloppy game. That was a fun game. That was an exhilarating game. There is no doubt about it. But it's wild how Michigan didn't even play great. Michigan made countless mistakes. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry would have said this before the game. If Michigan would have made the mistakes that they made, oh, there's no way they would have won the game, right? What would everyone say? You can't make mistakes up against the great Nick Saban and find a way to win. But it just shows you how great this Michigan team is, because you know what great teams do? They find a way to win when they don't play their best. And there was a moment in the first half where Michigan clearly was the better team, but they didn't have a big enough advantage at halftime. And then the second half, Alabama got rolling. But when they needed a drive to tie up the game, they got it. And then when they got the ball first in overtime, they marched right down the field. Blake Corum put the ball in the end zone, and they said, Michigan's defense, go win the game. And you saw a center have a bad snap, a right tackle get blown up, and then also just stupid decision-making on first down and second down, where Alabama did not run Jalen Milroe after getting a big chunk with Milroe, and Michigan punches their ticket to the national championship game. And I'll tell you now, just hearing the conversation from today, the biggest story heading into that national championship game is something that we've covered on this show for the entire season. It's the future of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh hires Don Yee. Don Yee, Tom Brady's agent, right? Don Yee is an NFL agent, and he's a very successful one. And you had that report that Harbaugh was offered a $125 million contract by Michigan. He hasn't signed it yet. And it's been as clear could be the last 3 years. The moment Jim Harbaugh gets an NFL offer, he's going to leave. But does winning a national championship maybe make him stay? Or is it the perfect time to bolt? Personally, I do believe this is going to be the biggest storyline heading into the game. And I do think on Monday night, this is going to be Jim Harbaugh, regardless of the result. I do believe this is going to be his final game as the Michigan head coach. Because unlike the last 2 years, I think he gets an NFL job offer to return as a head coach. And I don't fault him for a second for taking it. Because the NCAA is about to throw just like a stupid, petty fight. And they're going to go back and forth at Harbaugh. And they're going to try to suspend him, I would imagine, for a big chunk of next season. So on the Michigan side, there is no doubt about it. The story all throughout the week, and I think the biggest story heading into this national championship game is going to be Jim Harbaugh. On the Washington side, it's the brilliance of Penix and also Kalen DeBoer. And right now, on this Tuesday, the second day of the year, my early thought in the game is the best defense for Michigan up against Michael Penix Jr. is going to actually be the offense of Michigan. If Michigan's going to win this game, they are going to have to bleed the clock. They are going to have to run the football, which is one of their strengths. And they're going to need Blake Corum and also Donovan Edwards to go on these long, methodical drives that takes off a lot of time off the clock and keeps Michael Penix on the sideline. They do that. This is a Corum and Edwards game. Michigan will win. If Corum and Edwards don't have a great game and they can't bleed the clock, then Washington will win. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. How do you react to that final decision by Tommy Rees and Nick Saban? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, we talk about the sensational story of the Washington Huskies and the one that almost got away. There was two decisions late in that game that I just could not believe when I was watching it play out. All righty. 5 minutes, we'll come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show, 17 after the hour right here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Let's just say I'm an NFL GM, and I call you up and I go, Kalen DeBoer, I'm thinking about using an early first-round pick on Michael Penix Jr. Why should I use it?
He throws a ball, and he can throw it wherever he wants, as far down the field. He throws a really catchable ball. The receivers just get these balls that are nice. Ball placement is elite. He processes things very quickly. I think all that's applicable to be able to make that transition to the next level.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So we recap the Alabama-Michigan thrilling game. And then the second game, you knew this was going to be high scoring. You knew that this was going to be fun. But in that second half, it looked like Washington was going to run away with this thing. And I think there's two takes from this game. Number one, I don't believe any player from yesterday improved his draft stock more than Michael Penix Jr. And, you know, this is the weird part with college football because we so passionately love college football on this network. And I know there's a lot of great college football fans through North America, but it's amazing that it took until yesterday. And I don't know, maybe it's the casual fans where you had Washington be undefeated. And it took until yesterday for people to realize that Michael Penix Jr. is like this stud. And he should absolutely be a first-round pick. We'll see how he will transition from being a college quarterback to an NFL quarterback, but I'm not going to doubt him because I already doubted him once. And that was when he was at Indiana, and I didn't think he was that great of a quarterback, and he could never stay healthy. But what he's done, not just this year, but also last year, has been phenomenal. The last two seasons, they've only lost 2 games. And they lost those 2 games by a combined, 8 points or less. So what Penix has been able to do at Washington, not only salvaged his college career, but he is going to hear his name called somewhere in the first round. And this is a good team player. This is a good leader. There's going to be no character flaws with Michael Penix Jr. And wait until the interviews. He is going to jump right up the draft boards, and we'll see. Maybe, I still got to think Williams and Drake May are going to be the 2 quarterbacks off the board. But to then see who's going to be that 3rd quarterback off the board is going to be fascinating. Now, I don't believe that J.J. McCarthy will be a great pro, but his name will be in the mix. You'll have Jaden Daniels from LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner, will be in the mix. And then also, you got to have Michael Penix Jr. in the mix for the third quarterback off the board. But I know Penix has a ton of great wide receivers. But to see the ball placement that he had yesterday, like, that's what he's been doing for the majority of this season. I know down the stretch offensively they weren't great, but them not being great down the stretch offensively, while they still found a way to maintain an undefeated record, it actually helped out their defense because it put more pressure on the defense, and this Washington defense has done a complete 180 from where they were in the beginning of the season and before the season to how they won some games down the stretch. Now, I don't think Penix should have won the Heisman. I don't think it was egregious to vote for him to win the Heisman. Heck, he was second on my ballot. I don't love when people go, this is why the Heisman Trophy should be awarded after the college football playoff games. Like, that's not how it works. It is a regular season and a conference championship weekend award. It's like in baseball. The MVP, well, baseball, they give it out way after the postseason, but it's not based off what happens in the postseason. It's based off what happened in the regular season. And Penix had an argument to be made. But the reason why Daniels, and the definition is who's the most outstanding player in college football. That's the criteria. The passing numbers were excellent between Daniels, Nix, and then also Michael Penix Jr. But when you have Jaden Daniels run for 1,100 yards, that's what got him the separation, even though he did not have big victories because his defense was god-awful at LSU. But we don't really need to spend much on the Heisman Trophy conversation because Michael Penix, Heisman Trophy or not, it doesn't matter. We've seen that before. Guys not win the Heisman, and then they go win a playoff game when the other guy's sitting at home, and then they're going to play for a national championship on Monday night. But yesterday, just from a momentum standpoint, even though we shouldn't have needed it, this team continues to get disrespected. Michael Penix continues to get disrespected. And it was actually refreshing for people to finally open their eyes, check their vision, and understand how great of a quarterback this guy is. But at the end of the game, and I love Kalen DeBoer. I was talking to him this morning. There's no bigger fan on the national media, national talk shows of Kalen DeBoer than me. I've been on this Kalen DeBoer train for years. But at the end of the game, as much as I love Kalen DeBoer, it felt like Washington was trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Like, they had that game won. I rarely will do a premature celebratory tweet in a big game like that. This game was over. This game had no chance of actually being a game. And then two decisions made it a game. So they kicked that field goal to go up 37-28. They kicked that field goal. And the play before the field goal, I still don't understand why they threw the football. Like, bleed the clock or make Texas use their timeout, and then you go kick your field goal. Because at that rate, it was 2:44 to go. You're third and goal at the 10. You're not dialing up a touchdown pass. And I know DeBoer is extremely aggressive. But there's a difference in being aggressive and then doing the right thing. And I didn't love the decision by DeBoer on that third and goal at the 10 to throw the football. Now, it leads to a field goal to make it 37-28. Now, the next decision you could get on DeBoer, but I also hate the rule as well. It's like a mixture of both. You know, it's easy for me to do, like, hindsight is 2020, a little revisionist history. 3rd and 5 at Texas 39 with 50 seconds to go. And at that rate, Texas has no more timeouts. You got to take a knee there. Like, you have to bleed the clock there. And they didn't do that. So they run the ball with Dylan Johnson, who gets hurt on the play. And I don't even know if he's going to be able to go in the national championship game. Maybe he is, but I don't know how effective he is. And because he got hurt with 45 seconds left, it's an injury timeout. So that's like an injury timeout. It stops the clock. And when you get the player off the field, it's not like the clock resumes and you could waste all that time. So you had an injury timeout there occur on that play, and then Texas gets the ball back, and I'm sitting there watching that game, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be an all-time choke job. Like, I didn't think anything was going to top, especially when you have the brands of Michigan and Alabama, right? It's the SEC, it's the Big Ten, it's Harbaugh, it's Saban. I knew, regardless of how the games played out yesterday, that the number one topic on every national show was going to be something on Tuesday regarding the Rose Bowl between Michigan and Alabama. But if Texas puts that ball in the end zone at the end of the game, I think the lead would have been one of the all-time epic meltdowns and epic collapses that we've ever seen. Because that game with 2:40-something to go, it was over. The fat lady was already singing. It was turn out the lights, the party's over. And when they got inside the 30, I don't know what the heck Sark and Texas was doing. Like, everyone today is talking about the final play call for Alabama. How about, like, the short passes at the end? Right? That one to the right made no absolute sense by Texas. And I know the DB made a great play to knock that ball away at the end. But Texas was on the verge of, like, the ultimate Texas is back moment, right? And I give a lot of credit to Sark for what they did this year to just get to that spot. It's remarkable. They were expected to win the Big 12, and now you go into the SEC. But they almost won a game that they had no business winning. And Washington made a 1.5 egregious, you could even say 2, egregious mistakes at the end of the game. And thankfully for them, because that would have been a miserable way for Washington to lose the season after they had a remarkable season, and it will continue on Monday. That would have been all-time bad. An all-time, like, there are moments in sports of teams choking. Like, for me, the one that I remember the most was when the Yankees are up 3-0 against the Red Sox. You know, if you talk to my Uncle Ben in Philly, he'll tell you about the 64 Phillies, right? Like, they're just some teams that you remember all-time epic choke jobs. But that Washington one could have been at the near tippy top of the list if they would have blown that and they would have allowed a touchdown at the end. So, geez, crazy, because Texas had no business winning that game. And when they're driving, everyone in America, I don't care if you had family on Washington, you are thinking, wow, they're going to blow this game. And I did find it intriguing how the TV cameras, when Texas was struggling, kept on showing Arch Manning with Malik Murphy now transferring to Duke. And that's going to be a big conversation here, is does Quinn Ewers come back? And if Quinn Ewers comes back, how do you not start the guy that won you a Big 12 championship this year, was playing the college football playoff? But it did feel last night that it is time to get the Arch Manning era underway. I'm not saying in the game last night, but now the baton should be passed over. But I don't think Quinn Ewers, to me, is a pro quarterback. Like, he'll get drafted. I don't think he's going to be a successful pro quarterback. Like, if I was him, I would go back to Texas. But you know, especially now playing a tougher schedule in the SEC, the moment Ewers struggles, and Ewers also got hurt back-to-back seasons, there's no more Malik Murphy there. So you can't use him as a buffer because he's also really damn good. He's now off to Duke to delay Arch Manning getting on the field. So I do think Ewers should come back, but selfishly, I'm hoping he goes to the pros because I'm ready to see Arch Manning after all the hoopla that we've heard about him for the last few years. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. It is a Tuesday. We'll do overreaction, proper reaction next to recap what was another crazy week in the NFL. One more week to play in the regular season with Week 18 getting underway on Saturday. Greg McElroy going to join us. He was on the call for the Sugar Bowl between Washington and Texas. Also, the former Alabama quarterback. We'll get his reaction on the ending of that Alabama-Michigan game. That will come your way in about 20-25 minutes from now. But first up, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, I have not wished them a Happy New Year yet. I wanted to wait to save it until we got on the air. Also, I didn't see him really before the show. Anyway, a happy and a healthy New Year to the one and only Rich Ackerman, and he has the latest CBS Sports Radio update.
CBS Flash.
You as well as you get it in before the deadline. Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. There could be double-digit coaching openings this year in the NFL, but there won't be one with the Rams. Head coach Sean McVay said on his show he'll be back for 2024. There was some question about his future this time last year, but as opposed to going 5-12 a year ago, the Rams are headed to the playoffs. Dalvin Cook is leaving the Jets with a game to go. He had a subpar season and was signed before the season to bolster their depth in the backfield, but had only 67 carries this year and now is hoping to hook on with a playoff team. The Warriors are not even 2 years removed from their latest title, but that feels like ages ago. Golden State is currently 15-17 after 3 straight losses, and right now out of playoff contention as they get ready to take on the surprising Magic, who are looking for their 20th win of the season tonight. The Celtics are 26-6 and look for their 7th straight in Oklahoma City, which has won its last 4, while the Hornets have been dreadful, losing 11 straight, and hope to stop that skid tonight in Sacramento. And college action, number 1 Purdue on the road at Maryland. I'm Rich Eck.
Jim Rome is on CBS Sports Radio. Make it a must-listen to part of your day. It all starts at high noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, the Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Jaguars defensive linebacker Josh Allen. In Sunday's 26-0 win over the Panthers, Allen had 3 sacks to increase his total to 16.5 on the season, which is third in the league behind only T.J. Watt and Trey Hendrickson. And I actually think, I have to double check on this, but I believe that this is the third time this season that Josh Allen of the Jaguars has had 3 sacks in a game. Because I remember 2 other times, it's got to be, where he had 3 sacks in a game. I think like one was early in the season, and one was midway through the season, and now towards the end of the season. That was, I believe, his third 3-sack game on the year. Anyway, without further ado, it is a Tuesday. Let's get to a little overreaction, proper reaction. Stu, hit it.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
All righty, Moist Mike, what do we got cooking today?
All right, well, a team that you've been really sour on for a little while now. I mean, you really haven't spoken very highly of this team at all. The
Who's that?
Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, that's
I mean,
funny.
you've been really down on them a lot.
Yeah.
And I haven't really heard you say anything positive about them over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think some jackass that hosts the show here on CBS Sports Radio Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. He was the interim guy for a while before they made him the full-time guy.
Yeah.
He said like 2 months ago that this team is a Super Bowl contender. It'd be a disappointment if they don't get to the Super Bowl this year. But
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was, but whoever I was filling in had no idea what they were talking about. Well, the Ravens have clinched the number 1 seed.
Zach Gelb, something like that? I don't remember his name.
Gap Zelb, I think that's it, yes. The Ravens have
I
clinched...
wanted to reverse that, but I didn't know how I was going to pronounce that, and I was like, I don't need to get fired the second day into the year.
Hey, you want to call me Moist Mike? You're Gak from now on. What's up, Gak?
Yeah, that won't last that long.
The Ravens have clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC and have the only bye in the conference. But head coach John Harbaugh has yet to decide if he'll be resting Lamar and the other starters.
I have not made a decision on any personnel yet. We got to kind of work through the injury part of it first, and that'll take us probably 24 to 48 hours to get a real handle on that. And then we'll make those decisions. We're not going to keep it a secret, Jameson. We'll let you know what we're going to do once we start practicing.
What a week, by the way, for the Harbaugh family. Number 1 seed for John, and then a national championship game to coach in coming up on Monday for Jim.
Well, so overreaction, underreaction, or proper reaction, I'm sorry. It is a mistake to rest your starters if you have a bye. Now, this is not specific to the Ravens. I'm just saying, generally speaking, if you've clinched a first-round bye, it is a mistake to bench your starters for the final week of the season when you have that bye.
I am going to go with an overreaction, and I think this is maybe the biggest lose-lose ever in sports. Just this topic, because if you play your starters and someone gets hurt, everyone goes, oh, you shouldn't have played your starters. And then if you rest your starters, and usually coming out of a bye week, teams get a little bit sloppy, teams get off to a slow start, people go, oh, you should have played everyone. So I don't think it's a mistake one way or another. I'm fine with either decision. And if the Ravens want to say we're going to rest everybody, I am more than fine with that. I think it's an overreaction.
Now, the Saints stayed alive by beating the Bucs 23-13 on Sunday, moving into a tie for first in the NFC South. The Bucs can still win the division with a win over Carolina. That's a tough game for them here in Week 18. However, if Tampa does lose to the Panthers...
David Tepper, by the way, made the most accurate pass anyone for the Panthers have had this year when he threw that drink on a fan. David Tepper is a pig. All right? He is a jackass. He is an idiot. He is a moron. He is a dope. And he is a petulant brat. How that guy owns a football team, well, we know why. It's because he has a lot of money. But this dude is such a baby. And I'm glad everyone saw who David Tepper was. And here is a message if you are a head coach. Get $15, $20 million if you want to work with that jackass. Because that dude thinks he's a football guy, and he will intervene on every single decision. Like, people go, oh, Jim Harbaugh, maybe he'll take the Panthers job. Jim Harbaugh doesn't need to answer to David Tepper and deal with his shenanigans. And also, if that was a player who grabbed a beer and threw it into the face of a fan or a drink, the player would be suspended. But we have had no statement from the Carolina Panthers, no accountability from David Tepper, and they're trying to sweep this under the rug. And guess what happens? Because Tuesday's usually an off day in the NFL. Everyone walks in tomorrow and Wednesday. They got to talk to the media. Interim coach got to talk about this. The players got to talk about it because their owner acted like a loser. Grow up, David Tepper, and stop being a loser. Because Panthers fans deserve better, and you keep on dropping the ball. And you throw a drink at the fan. Like, come on, I don't care what the fan said to you. You get up and you walk away and you be an adult. All righty. Happy New Year, everybody. What do you got for me, Samter?
I was going to go overreaction, proper reaction. David Tepper is a dope, but I'm going to change that.
That's a proper reaction.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell.
However, if Tampa loses to the Panthers, the winners of the Saints-Falcons game in Week 18 wins the division and makes the playoffs. So overreaction, proper reaction. The Bucs have the best shot of any of these NFC South teams to win a playoff game.
Yes, because they have championship DNA, even though Tom Brady's no longer there. You have a good defense. The game last week really meant nothing to them. I know they could win the division, but when you have the Panthers in your back pocket the next week, you lose that game, you don't deserve to go. But I do think the Bucs will win. And, man, Eagles probably going to be the 5th seed because I don't think they're winning the NFC East now. Philadelphia has one and done written all over them. I think Tampa could beat Philadelphia.
All right, well, another team that you've been really, really down on, the Buffalo Bills. They won another close one against a bad team, beating the Pats by just 7. Now Buffalo has a crazy possibility in Week 18. A win against the Dolphins, and they win the AFC East and get the number 2 seed. However, if they lose, with a few other things happened, they could actually miss the playoffs altogether. Overreaction, proper reaction. Sean McDermott's job is riding on the outcome of Week 18.
I think that's an overreaction. I think he is back either way. I just don't believe Buffalo wants to make a move and move on from Sean McDermott yet. That was, even when it got really ugly, that was kind of the sense you got. Now, since they have turned it around, and they should win this game up against the Dolphins. They beat them by 18 points early in the season. Now the Dolphins don't have Jalen Phillips. Bradley Chubb is now out for the year as well. So I can understand why you make that argument, but ultimately I do not think the Bills fire him either way. So I will go overreaction when you say Sean McDermott's job is riding on Week 18. I put $50 on Buffalo to win get to the AFC at plus 1,000, and I did that back on December 12th. They're now offering me $85 if I want to cash out right now. I think I'm going to let that ride. But I do find that funny how a team that could miss the playoffs, I can now still earn money off them if I wanted to, but over $50, I'm not cashing out. Alrighty, next one.
Now, the Rams are in the playoffs thanks in large part to second-year running back Kieran Williams, who is smoking hot right now. He has over 1,000 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns in just his last 9 games, adding 3 more scores yesterday. Overreaction, proper reaction. With young stars like Williams and Puka Nacua, the Rams can still build a title contender next year.
Yes, because they also have the proper mix of veterans as long as they stay healthy with Matthew Stafford, who is a criminally underrated quarterback still. With Aaron Donald, who's one of the greatest defensive players of all time, and we all know still how great Cooper Kupp is. And you have a coach who now wants to come back after a lot of those players and the coach were kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out on retirement. So I don't think they're that far away. I will say proper reaction that they could end up being a title contender next year.
All right. Now, despite being on a 2,000-yard pace for most of the season, it appears like Tyreek Hill will fall short of that mark, sitting 283 yards short of the mark with 1 game left.
Imagine if he got it this weekend.
That'd be crazy.
That would be wild.
That's the only way they're beating the Bills. The NFL record for yards in the season still belongs to Calvin Johnson at 1,964. So overreaction, proper reaction, we will see someone surpass 2,000 receiving yards in the next 5 years.
With how much they throw the ball now, I will say that's a proper reaction. I think someone does it because even with, and I know Waddle's hurt right now, but Tyreek and Jalen Waddle having to split reps for the majority of the season, right? Because they're both on the field. They're both great players. They both be number 1 wide receivers on the majority of the team. Tyreek for maybe every team but like 1 or 2 in the NFL, depending on who you have. And then Jalen Waddle, heck, he would by far and away be the best offensive player on my team, the Patriots. And look how close Tyreek still got there. So I think someone will eventually do it. I'll go proper reaction.
Right now, with 1 week to go, the race for Defensive Player of the Year is coming down to the wire. Currently, the Browns' Myles Garrett is the odds-on favorite at -200, followed by Micah Parsons at +350. Then T.J. Watt, who leads the NFL with 17 sacks, at +800. So overreaction, proper reaction, Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I'll go a slight proper reaction, but like Steelers fans, don't come for me on social media because like I really still believe TJ Watt is just flat out ridiculous. You're splitting hairs right now. The Browns have just been a better story this season, so like it's a stupid answer, but I'll give the edge to Myles Garrett on that one. Alrighty, there's a little overreaction, proper reaction. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, Greg McElroy is a former Alabama quarterback. We'll get his reaction to the final play call and the final decision by Tommy Rees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And also, he was doing the color analyst role last night in the Sugar Bowl for Texas and Washington on ESPN. So after that game ended late, he woke up early, did his morning radio show on Jocks FM, and hopefully he'll still be awake to join us in 5 minutes when we return on CBS Sports Radio. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Listen.
Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling hour number 2 of our radio program. You can listen to Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik each and every morning on Jocks FM. They do a phenomenal radio program, and they're two of the best voices covering college football that we have. Greg McElroy, of course, is the former Alabama quarterback, now an SEC network analyst. He was on the call last night in the Sugar Bowl between Texas and Washington, and he's kind enough to join us right now on what is a very busy day for him. Greg, first and foremost, great call last night. Appreciate you doing this. How you been?
Good, Zach. Cole Kubelik's actually behind the wheel right now as we're making our way back from New Orleans, discussing all things college football. So I apologize that we're a little tied up, my friend, but all's good. It was a great game last night and a great day of college football.
Well, how is Cole as a driver, and is he a good kind of host when he's driving with you? Like, I have to imagine Cole Kubelik probably is riding with some beef jerky in that car. There's probably some good snacks, right?
Well, he has threatened to pull off at many a fast food restaurant, but since we are turning over a new leaf in 24, We've been remarkably diligent outside of the combos that he ate a little earlier from the gas station. So we're in a good spot, buddy. We're in a good spot.
Yeah, like 3-4 days from now, once everyone gets past the New Year's resolution, that will change rather quickly. I try, as a big guy, you're not holding off the sweets and the snacks for that much longer. Greg McElroy with us. Alrighty, let's start with Alabama, Michigan. Your reaction to the final play call by Tommy Rees in Alabama.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think it was really well defended. So we'll start there. A lot of people are criticizing Tommy, and I don't think Michigan is getting enough credit for really holding up there in the middle of their defense, and they really did a pretty good job of it all game long. I mean, Alabama's arguably their best offensive player is their right tackle, J.C. Latham. And he got walked back against the defender and really got pushed right into Milroe. And that's kind of what blew up the play. So I think we need to give a little more credit to Michigan for how they defended it. Also, we need to pay a little closer attention to the fact that there was multiple timeouts called before that last play was called. So I don't know if that was their best option. I don't know if that was their best play. It might have been their second or third after they analyzed it and took a picture of what Michigan was doing, and Michigan took a picture of what they were doing. But, I mean, it was just poorly executed. I didn't have a problem with the call. I think running your quarterback on, 4th and goal from the 3 is something you see, and it has been successful in the past, and they had some success with quarterback run at times in the game. But it really was just really poorly executed up front. Snap was low, kind of threw off the timing. And personally, I would have liked to have seen, knowing that there was probably going to be man, they were probably going to be bringing a little heat. I would have liked to have seen a quick pass as opposed to trying to run up the middle against a stout front.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the final play call. My biggest problem, and I think you're right, once the snap is low, all chaos ensued, and I did believe that Milroe panicked and he made a different decision, sure, but I'm not going to crush him for that. I didn't like, though, how once they got the ball down to the 9 and Milroe picks up 15 on the ground, that they didn't run the ball with Milroe on first or second down there. That was my biggest takeaway from Tommy Rees down the stretch in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair critique. And, I mean, look, Michigan's best attribute is arguably stopping the run. And they hadn't had a ton of success throwing it in the game. I mean, Michigan's got a great defense. So it really, and it was going to be a good cat and mouse game all game long. And, I think you're right, though. I mean, if there's going to be a moment for criticism, it was really the negative plays that got them way behind the sticks, which forced them to throw to Burton on the 15-yard gain there to give you 4th and goal from the 3. So it was really the plays leading up to that moment that made it a little bit more problematic and a lot less likely to be able to convert.
Greg McElroy here with us. We knew that Michigan could not field a punt. For Alabama, it was their center having problems all throughout the day. I'm sure you've had issues with your center before. Sometimes it could be a little bit on the quarterback. I thought this was more so on the center. Kind of just give me your analysis on what you saw going wrong with the center yesterday for Alabama.
Well, it's been a problem all year long, Zach. I mean, the inaccurate snaps were something that disrupted the rhythm. And it really kind of unfortunately had a negative impact on the team really all season long. I mean, Seth McLaughlin's a good center. He's a good kid, but the inaccuracies of the snap, it became a trend, and it became something that clearly had a huge impact on just the offensive rhythm, the timing of the mesh point, and all those other things. So it was tricky, but it's something that, look, we know if things are going to get you, they get you once and you get it addressed, but they continue to happen. That's when it becomes real troubling as a coach, but he was their best option. So it's like you can just put in a cold center. Let's see how he does. That wasn't really an option. So it's something they got to get addressed. Maybe they look to the portal or they figure out something with a young guy, but that can't happen next year. And it was something that we just saw way too often all throughout the season.
Talking to Greg McElroy right now. All righty, let's go over to Washington and Texas. I know this is probably how we shouldn't start this game because Washington was the better team, but some of the decision-making at the end, it almost cost them from getting to the national championship game. I know you were on the call for it, having it marinate, though, a little bit. shortly after the next day. What did you make of the 3rd and goal pass call? And then also the whole injury sequence timeout where a lot of people thought they should have just knelt down the football and then you would have prevented the injury timeout as well, losing your running back.
Well, we'll start with the 3rd down. That was where I ultimately had the biggest disagreement. And I said it on the broadcast too. I said, look, I thought Ryan Grubb had a really nice game, the offensive coordinator for Washington. I thought he had a great plan. There was a moment there really early in the 4th quarter. I thought they got just the tiniest bit cute, trying, a flea flicker and just getting overly aggressive after a sudden change. Then they got a pass interference and they had 1st 10. They had 3 straight plays that I just didn't think were high percentage plays going for the jugular. But at the same time, at sudden change, you got a nice lead. You're playing well. Your quarterback's hot. I wasn't overly critical of that sequence. But the 3rd down call prior to the field goal that gave them the 9-point lead was troubling. Because at that point, Texas had 2 timeouts remaining. There was around 2.5 minutes left or so in that vicinity. They decided to throw it. Penix is incomplete. That allows Texas to save that timeout. So they now have 2 at their disposal with about 2 minutes left. That could have extinguished at least one timeout or 40 seconds. I mean, one timeout's worth 40 seconds or so. So that was big. And the one that I disagreed with and said so on the broadcast. And then you think about the sequence at the very end, the final possession for Washington. It was really more circumstantial. I mean, and Cole and I talked about this as we were driving back. Kneeling on the ball, I don't agree with that. I would say to my running back, don't fight for extra yards, because I think back to what happened earlier this year, Georgia Tech and Miami.
Yeah.
Running back is fighting for extra yards. And as they're fighting for extra yards, sometimes that ball can get dislodged. So I said on the broadcast, I said, well, if you go down, don't fight for extra yards. No matter what, you punt this thing, the likelihood of you winning, the win probability, if you will, is 99.9%. If you can punt it to Texas inside their own 15 with 10 seconds left in the game or so. So I was okay with him running the football in 3 consecutive plays, but it was really unlucky that Dylan Johnson got hurt. That forced Washington to call a timeout, which preserved 35 seconds of play clock. It would have been at 15 when they snapped it on the 4th down punt. Instead, it was at 52. So it was really unlucky for Washington. It led to some late game heroics and some drama that really felt unnecessary. But either way, the team that was better last night won. Had it been the Longhorns that prevailed, the conversation today would be pretty gut-wrenching and, in favor of Washington.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I didn't think anything was going to be able to top Michigan and Alabama in terms of the coverage the next day. But if you had Washington choking that game, I think that would have been the lead story across almost every show around the country. Wrap it up with Greg McElroy. It's weird in college football because we watched Michael Penix Jr. all of this season and then all of last season. And I feel like today is the day nationally where people start to say, wow, this kid's great. Wow, this kid is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL. How far are you willing to go, though, with the Michael Penix Jr. praise? Like, could he jump a Caleb Williams? Could he jump a Drake May in this upcoming draft?
Well, it's so funny. It's like, welcome to the party. I'm glad everybody's here. This is terrific. Like, hey, better late than never. You came around. It's all good. I mean, look, let's not get into crazy comparisons here, but he's the only quarterback that's thrown for 4,500 yards in consecutive seasons since Patrick Mahomes. I mean, look, is he Patrick Mahomes? Let's not get carried away. But you want pure pocket passer that is executing NFL-level throws into windows that are NFL-like with timing that is comparable to that of an NFL player. I think his injury history will probably not allow him to get into the vicinity of a Drake May or a Caleb Williams. But if you want to go just sheerly on arm talent alone, he's the most talented passer in the country. And he's the most talented passer in the quarterback class coming up. It's just that enough for him to really get into a point where he could potentially, enter that conversation. Probably not. But I still believe that if I had to have a rookie playing in the NFL right now, and I need to win, and I'm a coach that needs to win to preserve my job, the quarterback I want under center in year number 1 is Michael Penix. Now, will he ultimately be the best guy 10 years from now? I don't know about that, but I think he's going to have the easiest transition from college to pro because he's already playing in an NFL style system and he's already executing at a high level NFL caliber throws.
Wrap it up with Greg McElroy. Going to the final sequence with Texas, when they're driving down the field, everyone's thinking, wow, they're going to really pull this off. Did you have any problems with the play calling down the stretch when you look back at it the next day?
Problems? I don't know if I necessarily have problems because they looked in the direction of their best red zone weapon multiple times. I just think the design of the plays, I think Steve Sarkisian will look at that sequence and probably have some regrets. And I diagrammed a couple of plays. Texas, they were getting quarters coverage with the safeties, playing really just head up to inside leverage the slot receivers, and they were trying to double.
I think we lost Greg. So obviously he's driving. Kind of tough to connect with him sometimes when you go through some rough patches. So that's a good conversation right there with Greg McElroy. We could wrap it up there. The only other thing that I was going to maybe potentially ask him about was just an early thought on Michigan and Alabama. But there is Michigan and Washington, the national championship game. But there is Greg McElroy. Always do appreciate him joining us on CBS Sports Radio. All righty, let's do this. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio with the news brief. The Zach Gelb Show will continue in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
This is just one of those years. If Buffalo just gets in, I think Buffalo is trending towards a playoff team, and not only trending towards a playoff team, but being a dominant team come playoff time. Everyone said they're done, they're over, and now they're starting to get life. Now they're starting to get the Undertaker kind of gift that resonates on social media, and they're popping back up from the casket, and they'll be in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Appreciate Greg McElroy making a few minutes for us today as we continue to discuss all the latest fallout from the college football playoff semifinal games. And the last time that these college football playoffs will be a 14 playoff, with it expanding to 12 next season. And I'm going to miss the 14 format because I've been very much so against the topic of expansion in the college football playoff. The most I would have ever expanded it to would be to 8 teams. Probably now, with losing the Pac-12, with all these teams jumping ship, I would then probably say make it 6, where you have an anomaly year, like a year where you just saw this past season, where you could say, maybe you want to see more Georgia, maybe you wanted to see Florida State. And also, just real quickly, I think the conversation the last week, similarly to how I said about for Michael Penix Jr., it's amazing how now people start to realize that he's this great quarterback. I knew there would be verbal diarrhea coming from the mouths of the Florida State topic. And Florida State gets blown out against Georgia. Florida State got embarrassed, but that wasn't the Florida State team that we saw this past year. They had 20-something guys missing with opt-outs and now Jordan Travis and all that. And I've been someone that I'm more than fine with the decision that the committee made. Yes, Florida State got screwed, but I understand why the committee did it, and I didn't have a major gripe with it. But then Florida State fans yesterday, and I know it wasn't their team from this year that got embarrassed by Georgia, Florida State fans are then throwing this parade after Alabama loses to Michigan. Did anyone yesterday when they were watching Alabama-Michigan, unless you are a Florida State fan, said, I need to see Florida State? So you can't get smacked by Georgia, even though you were that 20-something guys, and then throw this parade when Alabama loses to Michigan. So I just think some of the emotions and some of the conversation in the last 24, 48 hours, or even the last few days stemming from the Florida State-Georgia game, I don't think that justifies what the College Football Playoff Committee did since Florida State got blown out. And just because Alabama lost to Michigan, I don't think it enhances the case of Florida State as well. So that's just kind of the dialogue that I've heard over the last few days stemming from Georgia beating the pants off of Florida State, if you even want to call that the Florida State team from this past year, and then what did transpire in the college football playoff. But 4 no more, and I'm very happy that we had 2 great games yesterday between Michigan and Alabama, and the big decision from that was the whole play calling at the end by Tommy Rees. I'll say it for the 9,000th time this show. I did not have a big problem with the decision on 4th down. It was the 2 downs prior to that on 1st and 2nd where they went away from the strength of Alabama in that game, and that was Jalen Milroe running the ball, who got you to the 9-yard line after having a 15-yard run. And then a Washington fan, nothing should mess with you today. Nothing should toy with your emotions. But, man, in a game that you dominated, it should have never got close at the end of the game, but it did because of that 3rd down decision to throw the football when I thought they should have ran the football, but they did not. And you watch that game and you exhale in a big way because you would have lost that game. Man, that would have been as demoralizing of a defeat that I think I would have ever seen. That would have been as bad as it got because you were so much better throughout the entirety, and I mean the entirety of that game, and you almost lost it with some of the worst clock management I've ever seen in the final 3 minutes. Anyway, without further ado, and I'm not talking about Freddie Adu, it's time to update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So the Steelers beat the Seahawks this past weekend, and I saw a report that Kenny Pickett was inactive, reportedly because he refused to be quarterback number 2 because the Steelers were going Mason Rudolph. Kenny Pickett talked to reporters today, and he sounded off on the idea that he refused to be quarterback 2 because he wanted to play.
I saw reports out there that I feel like we're attacking, my character and how I am as a person, not even getting into a player standpoint of it. There was no talk of me being a backup quarterback this week in terms of being a 2. If I was healthy enough to play and the trainers and coaches felt like I looked good enough to play, I was going to start and play. If they believed that I was not, which they believed I was not going to dress and suit up for the game. So whoever reported that, I don't know where it started. It's kind of crazy what people will write and put out there to try to, prove their point or help their standpoint or their careers and what you guys do. But disappointing to see that without any proof or basis of it.
So Pickett is now going to be the backup this weekend. So he is going to be active. He'll be the backup. Mason Rudolph, though, is going to start up against the Ravens. I think there's some truth and there's some lies in this whole thing. Like, I'm not saying the report is totally wrong, and it does go against the Kenny Pickett that I thought I know and that I knew, but I'm not saying that the report was entirely true. It is, though, a little bizarre to me, though, Samter, where last week, or today he says that last week, if I was healthy enough to play, I would have been the starter, but then this week, you're healthy enough to play, but you're not going to be the starter. And naturally, I do believe there's some frustration from Kenny Pickett. I do think he could have played. And I think once you get that news that they're going with Mason Rudolph and doing what they think is in the best interest of the team, I'm not saying that he's going to be thrilled. And maybe they thought it was the best idea to make him the backup. To make him inactive for this one and give him another week. But I'm not ready to totally dismiss the report, but I'm also not ready to totally pile on in Kenny Pickett. I think there's a little truth and then a little lie being told somewhere in there.
Maybe there's something where he was like, I am 85%. I probably could have played if I'm starting, but it's not worth risking it if I'm going to be the backup. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's that. But either way, at the end of the day, Mason Rudolph is killing it, so who cares what Kenny Pickett thinks anyway? He's not going to be the Steelers quarterback for much longer. Doesn't matter. Mason Rudolph is the future of the Steelers.
Okay. This is how we're starting off 2024.
Listen, I ended it on a hot note, and I'm going to start it on one, too.
We may have to reevaluate Samter on the show. Because when did you turn into Skip Bayless? You really turned into Skip Bayless.
Hey, I like LeBron and the Cowboys.
Yeah, but what are you going to start doing? When your Chiefs lose in the playoffs, are you going to walk in your tiny kitchen and take the jersey off, the Mahomes jersey off, and throw it in the trash can like Chip Bayless does after every Cowboys loss?
I mean, I do have to buy my first Chiefs gear of any sort. I don't even have Chiefs socks
you
yet.
are. You don't even have a T-shirt.
You know what I did do is I printed out a picture of Patrick Mahomes on my printer and cut it up on a piece of paper, and then I stuck it up on the wall somewhere.
Mason Rudolph is a good backup quarterback. When Mason Rudolph has to start for a long stretch, I don't think he's a starting quarterback. Kenny Pickett, I don't think is the answer in Pittsburgh. I do believe the Steelers next year should have a new starting quarterback, and it shouldn't be Kenny Pickett, and it shouldn't be Mason Rudolph. But I'm sure you'll see at times, whether it's from the start, like he's not getting cut, he'll still be on the roster, and he'll probably start from the beginning of the season next year. Kenny Pickett will be afforded another opportunity to be the starter. But Steelers get into playoffs, Mason Rudolph plays well, and let's say they win a playoff game. Oh boy. Yeah, interesting.
I mean, they're averaging 32 points a game with Mason Rudolph in 2 games. Listen, I know it's 2 games, but it's not like they're pushovers. It was the Seahawks who were fighting for a playoff spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, Mason Rudolph has played okay.
And sometimes when I get really annoyed and I go to the gym, I run a quicker mile time than I've ever run before. It does not mean that I'm this great runner.
Yeah, but listen, it's one thing if the Steelers' offense was like averaging like 21, 22 points a game, and they had a couple. This team was so bad offensively. They've had 2 quarterbacks and 2 different offensive coordinators. They've tried everything except for the kitchen sink, and nothing was working except for Mason Rudolph. George Pickens is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now under Mason Rudolph.
Stop.
I mean, his 2 games.
Tyreek?
No. I'm just saying.
Justin Jefferson?
In the past 2 games,
Adams?
George Pickens in his last 2 games has been absolutely
He's been great.
Roof.
But let's calm down when we're saying the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Of course, it's hyperbole, but my point is...
George Pickens doesn't get the ball, he'll quit on his team, and then he'll be the biggest loser in the NFL.
No, of course it's hyperbole, but my point is that finally, the guy who's like, give me the damn ball, is getting the ball, and he's looking great, and it's Mason Rudolph who's doing it. I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is the answer.
I'm amused by you,
But if the Steelers can average 25 points a game with that defense, 23 points a game with that defense...
How about just like 20-something? Yeah.
But they're averaging 32.
Yeah.
Just give them... They were averaging 15 points a game before you got into the game.
They were terrible.
Right? Give them 22 points a game. They can make a run with that defense and T.J. Watt. I'm just saying.
Make a run?
If you go from having a putrid offense to having a serviceable offense, with that defense, that's enough to be able to make a run.
They should beat Baltimore. Because Baltimore, you're going to assume, is going to rest everybody, I would think. So, it's a Tomlin special here. They're a 9-8, 10-7 football team, always under Mike Tomlin. But they're not going to go on a run.
220 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games for George Pickens with Mason Rudolph.
Hey, I'm not saying he's been phenomenal. 195 receiving yards, 130. He's been great. And he's getting the ball. Good on him. But I don't think that now you can get on the Mason Rudolph train and think he's going to lead you through the night and lead you through multiple nights in the postseason, all righty? That red nose on Mason Rudolph, it's going to eventually go away. It's going to fade away. Small, he's like coffee. Give you a little jolt of energy. And then if you don't drink more coffee, that feeling, it fades off a little bit. Fades away.
By the way, you realize we're still on number 1 for news.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you start spewing takes to start the year. Like, I've never heard you spew takes before. I have to naturally respond. What do you want me to do? Not listen to what you say and just sit here and be like, yeah, whatever you say, Sam.
No, I wouldn't do that either. I'm just very impressed with... Listen, at the end of the day, it's the Steelers, it's Kenny Pickett, and it's a very interesting topic. I'm fascinated by it.
Here is Sean McVay. There's always questions about the guy that sounds like he's John Gruden a little bit, just the higher pitched voice sounding of John Gruden on if he's going to coach next year with all the retirement speculation. This is on the Sean McVay Show. I know coaches have shows. I didn't know Sean McVay had a show. I thought he was bigger than everybody else. And when he was going to have a show, he would just be a broadcaster on Fox or ESPN or something like that, or maybe even CBS. Here's Sean McVay.
You're tied for second in Rams history now for regular season wins.
Nice. I did not know that.
John Robinson ahead of you.
How far ahead?
Within striking distance next season, if you can promise us there's going to be a Coach McVay Show 2024 edition.
That I can promise you.
There you go. He would be stupid to walk away. Like, I get it. You go to TV. You live a nice life, a lot less stress, all that. But you got to coach this team next year. This team is better than what anyone could have imagined this year with Stafford and Puka Nacua and Williams and Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. You're not walking away.
I mean, have you seen his wife?
Yeah, I have. You know, his wife's still there,
Yeah,
regardless if he's coaching
working,
or not.
He's working till like 4 in the morning all the time. He doesn't get to see her. You go to TV, you have a much better work-life balance. You get to go home to that. You're good.
Yeah, that's fine, but still, I don't care how attractive either are. Spending 18 hours with your significant other, she'll be begging him to go back to the NFL and get out of the house. That's every relationship. You could have the two most attractive people on the planet. When you spend that much time with people, that's when divorce happens. That's when you start to say, okay, we need a little buffer. We need a little separation from one another. I was very surprised over the weekend. I was waiting to hear where he was going to land and transfer next, but Cam Ward, who was once a 0-star recruit, is announcing that he's going to the NFL.
What's up? It's Cam Ward, and I'll be declaring for the 2024 NFL Draft.
There you go. That was short.
When
Short
I heard
and
that,
sweet,
I'm like,
right
that
to
is
the point.
amazing. I love this guy. This guy's like, you know, I'm going to make the biggest announcement of my life in the 5-second
Yeah.
Twitter video.
It was great.
No pizzazz, no graphics, nothing. Just sitting on the couch and talking.
So he is an incredible quarterback. I don't think this is the best career decision. I thought he should have transferred somewhere else, but if you feel like you've given everything to college football and you didn't love your options, all right, you could turn pro. You know, I think he will interview well. I think he will test well. He has a big arm, too, and he's athletic, but I don't think he's going in the first round. I thought being the hot commodity in college football, the transfer portal would have helped him, and then he would have been a first-round pick probably next year. But maybe I'll end up being wrong on that. Here is Jalen Milroe on the center-quarterback exchange problem that Alabama was having all throughout yesterday's Rose Bowl.
With anything, it takes preparation, whether it's pass protection, whether it's running game, the passing game. You know, the quarterback and the center have to have a great relationship, and that's something that we try to build throughout the whole season. So, you know, there's a multitude of things that me and Seth talk about, and in that regard, you know, that's something we do talk about.
I'm just going to go out on a limb that the center and quarterback for Alabama don't have a good relationship. Because Milroe, after the first bad snap, looked like he just had it. And even Greg McElroy said that this has been a problem all throughout the season for Alabama. And then for it to pop back up in the biggest game of the season, where Michigan couldn't field a punt, that was their downfall in the game for Alabama. Their downfall was they couldn't snap the football. Like, simple things. But then you get in a big game, you have a center problem, you have a punt returning problem, it could cost you, and it ended up costing Alabama on that final play. And finally, here is Jack and Jackie Harbaugh. They had an amazing interview with ABC 7 after the game as their son is now advancing to the national championship game.
How do you put into words your emotions right now?
Are you kidding me? They won! What's better than that?
We have a thing in our family that we've used for a long time, and it goes like this. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
I know you get tense during these games. Were you on the edge of your seat throughout this one?
Well, of course! We were yelling and screaming. That's what we're supposed
play in the game was right before the long drive. Jackie decided that we should switch seats.
Oh my goodness.
And I moved to her seat, she moved to mine, and this is the result that we get.
All right, so you'll have to do that in the national championship at a certain time, maybe a little earlier in that game.
Yeah, for everybody's happiness.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
That just human emotion from their parents is absolutely awesome. I love that. That is just great audio. It's even better when you get to see it and you get to watch the elation that both of them had. The dad sounds just like John and Jim. If you would have told me that was John or Jim talking, I would have said, okay, I would have believed it. But the mom is awesome. We changed seats. How many times do you watch a game and you do something that has nothing to do with impacting the game, but you trick yourself into thinking that's what changes the game?
It absolutely changes the game.
How would you know?
If a butterfly's
Your
wings
teams
flap
never
in
win.
China, then it changes the course of your life over here in the U.S. Listen, man, I am 100% believer in how you sit and your positioning and what underwear you're wearing. Yeah. I'm a big superstition guy, and I believe 100% that they saved the game for their kids by switching seats. Whether they knew it or not, it was a subconscious, unconscious thing that the universe was speaking to us.
Had nothing to do with Tommy Reese after his quarterback got 50 feet on the ground, not giving the ball back to his quarterback to run the football with the quarterback on first and second down. Had nothing to do with that when you're at the
5 things happened on that final play that wouldn't have normally happened on any other play for Alabama. 2 previous timeouts, a low snap. They're all-pro, all-American right guard, right tackle getting blown up. All those things happened that would normally not have happened. Maybe it would have happened had they not switched seats.
As Samter just tossed paper up into the air. I have a New Year's resolution, by the way. You want to hear it?
Not really.
Okay.
No, of course I want to hear it. Let's go.
I was thinking of a syllable count, like a limit here at CBS Sports Radio. We should all come up with how many syllables we're allowed to say during the 3 hours that we have. I think you hit your quota for today.
I think you hit my quota for the year.
Yeah. Skip Bayless Samter.
I'll take that over the other nickname you got for me. Gack.
You're making Shep look normal these days.
Oh, jeez. Comparing me to Hot Take Hickey is one thing. Comparing me to Shep.
You make Hickey actually looking like his predictions are right these days. You did a good job, though, predicting both of the semifinals.
Well, no, I did have Texas 34-27.
Well, the first one you did a good job.
Yeah, I had 27-20 Michigan. But I had Texas, and I was close.
You had 27-20 Michigan?
I had 27-20 Michigan. I was very close there.
Okay.
You and I were very similar. You had 23-20. I had 27-20. No, I had 27-24. I'm sorry.
27-24.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I had 34-27 for Texas, which, I guess it could have happened. But
I had 34-30 Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. No, but it's all good. Just I was not ready. Like I'm not even gonna need to drink coffee on this shift anymore. If I get the takes that you're giving me each and every day, that will get my blood going. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, I know how to needle you.
On CBS Sports Radio. That just did not sound right. We will take a timeout. We'll come on back. The refs screwed the Lions, and Jordan Love, well, you're looking pretty damn good. Update time first. Here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Rams have enjoyed a second-half resurgence and are playoff bound. There's no question about the team's stability, with head coach Sean McVay promising he'll be back in 2024. There was some uncertainty this time a year ago about his status, but he'll head into the offseason when that happens without issue this time around. Dalvin Cook is hoping to have an impact for someone in the postseason. He and the Jets mutually part ways. Cook carried the ball only 67 times for 214 yards. The Celtics closed out 2023 with the best start of any team in the NBA. They take the court for the first time in the new year tonight in Oklahoma City, looking for their 7th straight. Boston has won 26 of its first 32 to the delight of Jaylen Brown.
I like where we're at. I think maybe 2 or 3 games we probably gave away. We probably should have an even better record, but it's a tough stretch coming up right now with some tough teams and some tough matchups. So I'm looking forward to this month and playing some good basketball.
The Thunder have been one of the league's biggest surprises this year, currently second in the West at 22-9 after 4 straight wins, and college action top-ranked Purdue on the road at Maryland. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Doesn't take much to make the Pro Bowl now. Tyler Huntley made it last year. Mac Jones has made a Pro Bowl because about 8 or 9 say no. So you know what? Rewind. Proper reaction. Because about 17 quarterbacks will say no and Will Levis will get in. Hey, Derek Carr, you want to go to the Pro Bowl? I got asked. Really? Oh, yeah, I don't feel like doing it. Lamar Jackson, you're a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Do you want to go? No, I don't feel like it. All right, Deshaun Watson, you play like crap now. You want to go to Pro Bowl? Yeah, sure. Why? Like, Ryan Tannehill. Like, what are we doing, some of these quarterbacks?
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. The Lions and Cowboys ending, it's crazy because we're so many days removed from what transpired on Saturday night when you go through a full slate on Sunday. And then you had the two big college football playoff games yesterday, and now we all get back into the office on Tuesday. But I'm still furious about the ending of that game. And I've heard all the excuses. I've heard all the blame that maybe people could direct on the offensive lineman or they could place on maybe they should have stopped the play once they announced that the receiver or the lineman that was eligible, it should have been the other guy. Like, I've heard all of it. Like, I heard the Cowboys radio announcers where they have the official's mic and they go, number 70 is eligible when it was 68 who actually reported. The referee screwed this one up. And the referees rushed it. Remember, there is a touchdown. A touchdown occurred. There was no need to rush it when they want to go for two, and the officials botched it. Allen botched it. Brad Allen botched it. There's no other way to say it. I should never need to know the name of an official. The only time I know a name of an official is if he's jacked like Hockley was, and you just visibly see him like that. You're like, okay, that's an official that you know. Or they do something stupid, they mess up a game, and then everyone knows who that official is. I know they sent 3 linemen over to him. You're trying to deceive the Cowboys because even though they announce it, when you see 3 linemen go over there and then 3 walk back, it's like, oh, which one's eligible? And even if you hear the announcement, you may see someone walk over there and then you may be on your toes a little bit more. And if you maybe think, oh, that other lineman, he went over there, even though he's ineligible, you're still going to be lining up and maybe thinking something crazy is going to happen here. So I don't have a problem with the Lions sending 3 linemen over. It's clear that 68 is the one that was reporting as eligible. And the official rushed it, and then runs over and says that 70 is eligible. And 70 was the farthest lineman away from the official. So I didn't even get how he thought it was 70. So this is on the official. And that guy, John Parry. Enough of John Parry, by the way. He messed up the season. I don't forget about this one. Monday Night Football to start the year. The Jets beat the Bills. Aaron Rodgers, 4 plays into the season, the Achilles, and this clown is bitching about the block in the back on the punt return that won the game for the Jets. And who is John Parry to say that this game needs an asterisk on it? So I was already tired of John Parry. And then John Parry says it's on the players, not the official, when he's doing an interview after the game with Scott Van Pelt, that it's on the player, not the official, to report who's eligible. Well, John, the player clearly said he was eligible. No one else said a word. And they couldn't get the numbers right. And you know what annoys me the most about this? And I'm not going to hide around this one. It prevented another epic choke job by the Drama Dallas choking Cowboys. That would have been back-to-back weeks. Dak does his job, and the defense couldn't finish it off. And it would have been a fat offensive lineman. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm a large fellow. We don't say that in a demeaning way. I say that in a positive way. Because there is no better play in football than a fat guy 2-point conversion, a fat guy touchdown, a fat guy score. And you run an eligible offensive lineman play, and it gets caught, and boom, it should have put the Lions up, and it would have won them the game. But the official messed it up. And I know a lot of people, they're getting on Dan Campbell, and I'll open this up to you guys real quickly. A lot of people are getting on Dan Campbell for going for it at the 7. I did not. If you're going to go for it at the 2, it's a 2-point conversion play. You didn't want to play for overtime. I'm okay with him going at the 7. But then there's people saying that he should have kicked it when they got back to the 2. Because remember, there was a penalty. It was Michael Parsons, I believe, who jumped off sides. So that got them the ball back. And then when they lined the ball back up at the 2, you're then telling me they shouldn't have gone for it there? Why? Jared Goff needs to throw a better football there. He throws a better football in that spot. They get the 2-point conversion. I guess you could say third time's a charm. So I did not have a problem with the decision-making of Dan Campbell. The only problem that you should have is the failure to report who was eligible correctly by the dopey referee. Samter, did you have any problem with Campbell keep on going for it on the 2-point conversions at the end?
No. I love that kind of attitude because it's not just about winning and losing. It's also about setting a tone and a culture for your team. And that's the tone that he's set for that Lions team for a long time. We are going to be aggressive. We're going to back down from nobody. We're not going to be afraid of anything. We're just going to go for it, and we're going to win big or we're going to go home. So I love that from Dan Campbell. And I don't have an issue with the call. I think that they just tried to get too cute. I think at the end of the day, they tried to trick the defense. They tried to do all these different little tricks. And listen, yeah, they confused the ref. They confused the defense, and they confused the ref. And at the end of the day, yeah, the ref made the mistake, but the Lions needed to be smarter with how they did that.
But hold on.
They intentionally tried to confuse the ref and the defense, and they succeeded. They did it too well. They needed to be
and that's on the official. You did too good of a job. And this dopey official can't get who's eligible. The other two guys didn't say anything.
That's like blaming the audience when the magician pulls a trick on them. No, the magician is there to pull a trick on you, so you have to, as the audience, your job is to be amazed and wowed by the wonder of that.
But it's not the audience's job to make sure that we have a good magic show. That's on the magician. And the referee in that spot, it's simple. You could have 8 guys walk over to you. Only one guy is saying, hey, I'm the eligible guy. It doesn't matter if you had a whole army next to him. Only one guy says, I am eligible. I don't care if the other guy's rubbing his tummy, if the other guy's doing the worm. If he doesn't say that he's eligible, how do you mess this up? And the official rushed it because he was running right up. I know he's got to tell everyone, but he's running, and he did not have to rush it there. And that's what screwed him. Because I think he originally heard it correctly, then saw the other guy at the corner of his eye, was like, 70 is eligible, and he just messed it up.
That's probably what happened.
And that can't happen.
Was that he probably left the area a little bit too soon. He saw the guy running in 70. He heard somebody say, I'm eligible, and assumed it was the guy 70 running in because the Lions were trying to be tricky. Now, if the Lions were smarter and they were a little bit more prepared for this play, they would have sent everybody in, done the whole little spiel, but made sure, hey, 68, I'm eligible, 68. But because they were trying to be too cute, the ref walked away a little bit too soon, and he misheard or misidentified who said it.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
I can't get on the Lions for that.
Listen, I blame the ref, but I'm also not saying that the Lions did it. The Lions got a little bit too cute. And Jerry Jones agreed. He said the same thing on 105.3 The Fan.
Of course Jerry Jones agreed. And if it was the other way, Jerry Jones would have been blasting the officials if that was his team that got screwed. Come on.
What are you talking about? Jerry Jones is unbiased and nonpartisan.
Now Jerry Jones makes sense. He hasn't made sense all damn season when you hear him do these interviews. He confuses me each and every week. When you use Jerry Jones to try to make a logical argument, that's when I know it's going to be illogical. I win, you lose, over. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Back at 5.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Here we go, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. The Chicago Bears, in a big part to the incompetence of the Carolina Panthers, and my best friend David Tepper, which I'm being sarcastic, I can't stand that petulant brat, have secured the number 1 overall pick. So the Bears are on the clock, and this now creates a very, very, very intriguing decision for the Chicago Bears, where I only think there's one wrong answer, and that's trading Justin Fields. You want to tell me you want to trade the pick? I'm good with it. You want to keep the number 1 pick, and you want to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 1 and have a core next year of Fields, DJ Moore, and Marvin Harrison Jr.? I'm all good with it. But Justin Fields has played too well down the stretch where not only does he deserve to be the job and have the job next year as the Bears starting quarterback, but the fan base now wants him as the starting quarterback. And if we would have talked about this in September or October, it would have been, this is a big year for Fields, but probably the preference would be Caleb Williams or probably the preference would be Drake May. I don't think right now I need to have Caleb Williams or Drake May if I'm the Chicago Bears. And Chicago has never had a quarterback. And now when finally someone's starting to move this team and play himself into being the quarterback of the future, you're going to get rid of him? And I'll tell you this. You trade him. You trade Fields. And let's say you take Caleb Williams 1. You take Drake May 1 as well. Fields you'll get a first-round pick for. That is how well Fields has played. I really do believe the Bears want to trade Justin Fields. They would get a first-round pick for him. I would have said 4 or 5 weeks ago, you would have got a 2 for him. But if Josh Rosen is going for a 2, if Sam Darnold was going for 2 and then some, Fields, in what has been a bad destination for quarterbacks, has put it together this year when slightly getting more help. And also, even though sometimes I come off as someone that is irrational, I am someone that I believe in logic. Like when the Cardinals extended Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. Before that, I didn't think Kyler Murray was deserving of an extension. But when you extend the guy that drafted him and the guy that coaches him, even though you shouldn't have, once you do that, you then needed to reward Kyler Murray with an extension, and you also lost all the leverage. Now, I know that didn't work out. Now, Kyler Murray's playing fine football, but Keim is out of a job, and Cliff Kingsbury is out of a job. So the report that I read over the weekend from Ian Rappaport is that he believes Eberflus is going to be back next year. So let me get this right. Ryan Poles is probably going to be back as the GM. Matt Eberflus, and I only came in 2 years ago. Matt Eberflus is going to get another year as the head coach. So why would you get rid of the quarterback? And I know everyone could tell me, oh, Caleb Williams is this generational talent, and Drake May is not that far behind him. When it comes to the quarterback position, I don't move on from someone that's working. Because how many times have we done shows here at CBS Sports Radio, or we had experts on that just slobber all over these quarterbacks? Like we were told for 3 years, Trevor Lawrence was going to be the next Peyton Manning, right? That's what people told us. Now people are extremely critical of Trevor Lawrence because he had 1 bad year, 1 good year, and 1 underwhelming season with a bunch of injuries. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Drake May is going to be Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is better than both those guys. And look at the way that we're talking about Trevor Lawrence now. You know, how many people told me that Sam Darnold was going to be a great quarterback? So this stuff happens where because everyone wants a quarterback, we all overrate these quarterbacks. And I think Caleb Williams is a good player. I think Drake May is a good player. I think Michael Penix Jr. is a good player. Jaden Daniels, good player. But I don't think there's anyone that I need to have right now where I draft that quarterback and get rid of Fields. And let me tell you this. This is a developing situation. Because in September, I would have agreed with everyone that said, draft Williams and get rid of Fields. But as the season has played out, Fields has something. And you don't need to give him a new contract yet. He still has 2 years left on his deal when you factor in the 5th-year option, which they'll pick up. So for an organization that has never had a quarterback, when someone starts to play well, and he has won over the fan base, he has won over the locker room, you're going to go draft somebody else? It just doesn't make sense. Like if you were getting rid of the GM, if you were getting rid of the head coach, and you were going to blow this entire thing up, okay, I could listen to it. But as long as the GM and as long as the coach are coming on back, and it appears that they are, Why would you get rid of the player who is playing well enough and it's still not even an ideal situation in Chicago? I think you do nothing here. You do not extend Justin Fields. You do not give Justin Fields a new contract. And you let this play out, and you need to assure that you put him in the best position available to succeed. And I threw this out there last week. And after seeing what happened this weekend where Arizona stunned the Philadelphia Eagles, I had the Cardinals plus 12 points. I did not think that Jonathan Gannon was going to win the game outright. But the Cardinals are the one team you need to circle. Because the Bears know that the Cardinals, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is available, is going to take him. So Chicago could actually get the best of both worlds where they keep Fields, they get draft capital, and they're also still able to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Because Josh Harris is looking to make a big splash. Robert Kraft may have a new head coach or trying to save Bill Belichick. They're looking to make a big splash, and both need quarterbacks. So Chicago could fall back to 2. Chicago could fall back to 3. Still get some future draft capital, keep Justin Fields, and get Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what they should do. And guess what? If you feel like moving back is going to cost you Marvin Harrison Jr., I would take Marvin Harrison Jr. 1. And I wouldn't hesitate that if I can't ensure that I will get him at either 2 or 3. But assuming that someone moves up to 1 and you still, and we'll see how the final draft order does shake out, and you're still in front of the Cardinals, you should be able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not telling you Fields is going to be great. I'm not telling you Fields is going to be generational. I'm not telling you Fields is going to be their quarterback for the next 10 years. I'm not. But I'm not as sold that Williams is going to be this generational talent or Drake May is going to be this generational talent, and I don't sit here and compute out the answer that, I need to have one of those guys 100% certainty over what I have right now in Justin Fields. Because Justin Fields, even though he hasn't always played great, I do think his first 2 years struggling was more so of a product of the Bears messing him up than Fields being the biggest reason to the problem. And he's now looking like the solution, and he has a good relationship with DJ Moore. Now imagine what that offense would look like, because who would have thought the Bears would be falling out of the top 10? But they have a second first-round pick, and that's their original first-round pick. They're now 7-9, and they're at the top 10. No one in their right mind thought the Bears were going to be a 7 or 8 win team this year. And that's a credit to the quarterback. You know, I know we had that little run of Tyson Bagent and all that, but Fields down the stretch has been really damn good. And I don't get rid of someone that's been really damn good hoping that someone else is going to be the guy. Because, like, for example, look at Andrew Luck. And I understood why the Colts did that. Peyton Manning was coming off a major surgery, major injury, and he was older. You have Fields still in the prime of his career. And as great as Andrew Luck played on the field, he didn't have this long career in the NFL because injuries derailed his time in the league and forced him to retire. So when a locker room loves someone, when the fans love someone, and he has won over that city, you're going to get rid of Justin Fields? It's not the time to trade Justin Fields. I know you could say, his stock will never be higher, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, you got to, the Falcons would be stupid not to offer a first-round pick for Justin Fields. Heck, I would give up a pick for my team in New England for Justin Fields. Because this guy is showing that when he just gets a little bit of a better situation, he was the player a lot of us thought he could be. And I've never got the Justin Fields disrespect. Like, you go back to that draft class, you had Trevor Lawrence go 1. You had Zach Wilson go 2. Then the next quarterback off the board was Trey Lance 3. And then Fields fell to the Bears, where they traded up to go get him at, I believe, 10. And then you had Mac Jones go 14 or 15. I thought I was imploring the Patriots on this show in that draft process to go get Justin Fields. I remember they had me do, it was right during COVID in 2020. They had me do a prediction video, and I was like, the Pats will go get Justin Fields, so trade up to go get him. And it was the Bears that ended up doing that. So Fields, who got off to a bad start to his career, is now turning it around, and you're going to bail? And you know what? If Fields was in this draft class, how would he rate? Like, let's say if Fields was coming out of college, would he rate higher than Caleb Williams? Would he rate higher than Drake May? I don't know. But he's in the conversation. So you could potentially get picks, and you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. to surround him around Fields. That's the plan. That's what you should do. And I said it last week that I was buying it on Fields, and I said they need to have Fields in however way they want. Fields, Marvin Harrison Jr., and DJ Moore. And now I will double, triple, quadruple down on it the rest of the way. It would be a mistake to get rid of Justin Fields. I really do believe that. And you know what? If you want to disagree, I think you will fall in line with a lot of people, because our biggest flaw as talk show hosts and fans, we do not know how to evaluate the quarterback position. We don't. And when we think we know how to evaluate the quarterback position, we end up being wrong. So I'm not dealing in this potential. I'm not dealing in the draft. I know what I have right now with Justin Fields, and I want to see more of it. It feels like you should see more of it, and I wouldn't bail now. Because, like, look around all these trades in the NFL. Look at all the hot quarterbacks that are on the move. Russell Wilson goes to Denver. His career is now over. Deshaun Watson goes to Cleveland. You know, take out what happened off the field, which I know is impossible to do. But just talking about it from a football decision, everyone's like, oh, wow, that's an elite quarterback. That's a great quarterback. Deshaun Watson barely played last year because of the suspension. When he did play this year, did not look good besides one game. And now it's a make-or-break year for him next year, and Joe Flacco comes off the couch and is playing great football. And I'll even give you Green Bay. We tarred and feathered the Packers for 2 to 3 years. Gutekunst, are you an idiot? How do you move on from Rodgers? How do you draft his replacement? Jordan Love looking pretty damn good right now. And we all knew throughout this year, Jordan Love was going to have good moments and bad moments. And I said it the entire season. I don't give a rat's ass what the Packers win total is at the end of the year. I don't care if they make the playoffs, they miss the playoffs. Does not matter to me. All I care about is at the end of the year, did you see enough to suggest, not know, but suggest that Love could be the guy? And guess what happened? Love is doing enough at the end of the season to show that he could be the guy. Remember Lamar Jackson? Oh, Lamar Jackson. You had guys like Bill Polian, a Hall of Fame executive, say that he needed to change positions. He fell to the 32nd pick in the first round. And Lamar Jackson is now going to win his second MVP. We do not know how to evaluate quarterbacks. So we could all have our jaws drop when we watch Caleb Williams and Drake May play. We could all do it. But I don't know how they're going to be as NFL players. It looks like they could be really good NFL players, but Justin Fields right now is showing you in a new start in Chicago that he's a really damn good player. And I'm not getting rid of Justin Fields whatsoever. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, could the Eagles say goodbye to Nick Sirianni whenever they go out in the playoffs? And also, is one really damn good coach potentially going back home this offseason? We'll tell you more about those two coaches next. We'll be back in 5. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer and Emmitt Smith.
You don't have a Mahomes in Dallas. You got a Dak Prescott that's efficient quarterback enough to throw the ball 35 times a game, maybe 40, maybe. You should have a running game that should balance that and create more opportunity for Gallups and everybody else to get down the field with play action if you run the ball effectively. If we believe in Tony Pollard that much to where we got rid of Zeke Elliott, well, damn it, use him.
Does it annoy you that Zeke's not playing for the Cowboys?
It does.
Why?
Why? Because I thought the 1-2 punch was awesome. And it does ignore me. It makes me hot that he's not a Dallas Cowboy.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. It's weird. I think I have a love-hate relationship with Nick Sirianni. Because the first year, when he did that flower speech and that flower analogy, I was like, oh, this guy ain't going to make it in Philadelphia. Then he started to win games, started running the damn football. They make the playoffs. They get blown out by the Buccaneers. But that was to Tom Brady. All right, they had something. And last year, they hit every button the right way, and it led them to blow out almost every opponent. And then they got to the Super Bowl where they blew a 10-point lead and they lost. I would never have thought when we sit here on the second day of January in the year of 2024, I was going to utter these words on a national radio program, especially when the Eagles were 10-1. But I don't believe in Nick Sirianni anymore. I don't. And I don't think it's crazy to suggest that he could get fired after this year. I really don't. And I'm not saying you go through all of next season and then firing. I'm saying after this current season. Because my biggest problem with Nick Sirianni is you need to be a player's coach in this year, but there's a difference in being a player's coach and then a doormat. And when you're wearing your players' jerseys, I don't think you could be a player's coach that isn't a doormat. And I do believe there's a communication problem. And I believe that there is a locker room problem now in Philadelphia. And I don't say that just very freely. Like, I don't say that easily. Because I was in that Eagles locker room at times last year. And that Eagles locker room, it was as if all 53 players operated under one heartbeat and one mentality. And this year, you see a lot of frustrated players. 2 weeks ago, even in a win up against the Giants, you have Devontae Smith and Hassan Reddick yelling at the coaching staff because something was wrong. And those aren't guys that usually yell at a coaching staff. So that's when it's alarming. You have Jason Kelce after the game, and I'm talking about the one they just lost to the Cardinals, basically be speechless. That guy is a great talker. That guy has a great podcast. And that guy has dealt with the media in Philadelphia for a long time, and he had no answers. A.J. Brown, you could call him a diva, you could call him selfish, and some of that is warranted. You see the frustration visibly on his face, and the guy wears a visor. Like you could just see it. And there's just sloppy communication. There's sloppy play calling. And there was a stretch. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick have been doing Eagles games for years. Mike Quick is a Hall of Famer. Merrill Reese is a pro's pro as a broadcaster, one of the best to ever do it. Even they were criticizing the team with some of these just design runs where you knew that the play wasn't going where the way that they wanted it to run. And then you saw that the lady was probably like 40 years old or something. You know, I should never really guess a woman's age, but she's even screaming, "What the bleep are you doing?" in that sequence. Because everyone knew what the Eagles coaching staff was doing was wrong. And, you know, I know Eagles fans wanted to run Jonathan Gannon out of town. Jonathan Gannon knew the whole Eagles offense. And Shane Steichen, right? All right, you lose a nice offensive mind, but Sirianni will figure it out. And you already had Sean Desai. I know he didn't get fired, but get replaced by Matt Patricia. And then the new offensive coordinator, Johnson, I know he had the relationship with Hurts and the quarterback coach last year. He's been miserable too. And that falls under who? The head coach, Nick Sirianni. And I know it may feel like deja vu for Eagles fans, because once Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl, lost Frank Reich, a lot of people are like, oh, that's why you have problems with the Eagles. And I thought that was a joke at the time. But I think there's merit to that argument. And this year, I know it's sometimes tough when you have a team that loses in the Super Bowl. The entire goal is to get back to the Super Bowl and right a wrong. But outside of the coordinating changes, there hasn't been that many drastic changes with the Eagles this year. On paper, they still have a great offensive line. You can make a case that they upgrade the running back position. Like Miles Sanders, I know he had great numbers last year. He was overrated. You still have A.J. Brown. You still have Devontae Smith. You survived the Dallas Goedert injury. Julio Jones had 2 touchdowns over the weekend. I'm not saying he's from the fountain of youth. That's a pretty damn good number 3 wide receiver. On defense, Bradbury has regressed. Darius Slay is not as good as the way that he talks. I know he's been hurt. You lose Hargrave, but you still have a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball. You draft Jalen Carter. So the Eagles, who were once 10-1, and they had some problems, but they were still winning games, they have fallen off. And they don't know how to win anymore. And that's a problem. And you have articles coming out about the quarterback, how he's losing the locker room too. This is a dumpster fire. And that's a reflection on the head coach. Because a lot of people believe with some of the issues, even after winning, that Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson had, the Nick Sirianni hire was made because that's a coach that Howie Roseman could basically control and be the puppet master to. This is what happens when you hire a puppet. There could be some good moments, but when you face and are met with adversity, how do you respond? And in year 1, he responded well. Year 2, there was no adversity. Year number 3, you got off to a 10-1 start, and you have not only declined, you have bottomed out. You'll lose to the Cardinals. Even with all this problem, you were still in line to win the NFC East and have a home playoff game. Now, in all likelihood, unless Dallas chokes up this opportunity, you're going on the road wild card weekend. I thought I would have an easy drive down to Philadelphia, get a credential, go cover these games, go have some fun. We have a few Eagles playoff games, home playoff games at the Link. Stuff my fat face with some cheesesteaks. Go to Mama's, go to Del Sandro's. That's what I thought I was doing. Ain't going to be an Eagles home playoff game. And quite frankly, I don't even care who the opponent is. Like, the NFC South sucks. Atlanta, the Saints, Tampa, whoever. You know the Eagles are going to be a favorite. I don't know how you wouldn't plus the points, even though they would be a road favorite. I don't know how you plus the points with the home team right now. Because in all likelihood, they're going to be the 5 seed, and they're going to be going to whoever wins the NFC South. And even though the Eagles are by far and away a more talented team than whoever wins the NFC South, I can't pick the Eagles right now. Because even when you have a ton of talent, if you don't have team chemistry, you don't got anything. Because we've seen some really talented teams just be a disaster because they can't get on the same page. And how do you fix this? How do you save this? You know what? I'll give you an in-the-moment take. Jim Harbaugh wants an NFL head coaching job. I think that's been pretty damn clear. He's wanted an NFL head coaching job the last 3 hiring cycles. Jim Harbaugh can be as selective as he wants. He is the hottest name on the market right now. Hotter than Johnson with the Lions. Heck, even Bill Belichick becomes available. Jim Harbaugh right now is the most attractive next potential NFL head coach. He's had success in the NFL, 3 NFC title games, a Super Bowl appearance. He's been a stud at Michigan, right? He was great at Stanford. Everywhere Jim Harbaugh goes, he wins to some capacity. So I know most of us are saying, oh, well, the Chargers should hire Jim Harbaugh. What about the Eagles? Like, the Eagles still have a good roster. But the Eagles don't have the right coach right now. And the Eagles are sloppy in the locker room. And the Eagles have no order right now. And the Eagles are a mess. The Eagles right now are the Titanic. And they are slowly sinking. And not everyone's going to get on the life raft. And you got to make some cuts. And it's now time for the Eagles to fire Nick Sirianni. Like, let him coach out the rest of the season. Even if they win wild card weekend, which I don't think they are right now, they'll lose in the divisional round. But they have too much talent to be this bad. And I know Howie Roseman wants control, and Harbaugh would be the antithesis of that. But you would have an instant upgrade at the head coaching position if you brought in Jim Harbaugh. And I usually do not advocate for guys to get fired after they go to the Super Bowl the year before. But that is how bad this has gotten in Philadelphia. You go from 10-1 to a passionate, loyal fan base now having zero confidence in you. And I know sometimes people say, oh, Eagles fans are crazy. Oh, they're ridiculous. At least they're going to the playoffs. No, Eagles fans are right. This team went from a likable team last year to now they are unlikable. And it's actually painful to watch this team. So I would seriously contemplate moving on from Sirianni. And I would seriously contemplate begging, imploring Jim Harbaugh to come join the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, from that to the future and the mixed emotions that I had this weekend, I got really excited about who could potentially be the next Patriot head coach. I do think it's time to move on from Bill Belichick because I think it's time to rebuild. And with Belichick's age, I think it's tough to rebuild the 71, 72-year-old head coach. Now, let me be clear. If Robert Kraft wants to bring back Bill Belichick, I think there needs to be some changes, but I'm not totally against it. But I heard Mike Lombardi, who, as Jason Kelsey once said, some clown named Mike Lombardi. He teased me this weekend. And I'm not a big fan of Mike Lombardi because he once hung up on me on a radio interview where he only gave us 7 or 8 minutes and he was like, man, you know, I've been on for a long time. I've never done a radio interview this long. I got to run. Back when I was working at Stu and I's favorite radio station, 920 AM, The Jersey, back in the day. Now I guess I could say back in the day. Man, I am getting old. This isn't good. But Mike Lombardi, I think he was on his podcast or wherever it was. He said that Mike Vrabel is in the final year of his contract. Today, Mike Lombardi, and the speculation was that maybe Vrabel was going to go to the Patriots and replace Bill Belichick. That was a speculation, which I'd be good with that. Vrabel's a really good coach. He's young. He's got a lot of life left in him. I think that would have been the perfect transition to go from Belichick to Vrabel. And then Lombardi today makes a tweet, and he goes, oh, I misspoke. He actually has 2 years remaining on the contract. And like when I first heard it, I'm like, I don't want to believe Lombardi because I don't like Mike Lombardi. But he is plugged in, right? You would think he would know the information. And I remember looking up when this happened over the weekend, like Mike Vrabel's contract. It's like, oh, he just signed an extension, like a year or two ago for 5 years or something like that? Maybe it was 2 years ago, whatever the numbers were. But Lombardi is claiming that he was in the final year of his deal, which is like, oh, perfect timing. Lombardi tweets out today, I misspoke. He had 2 years left of the contract. So this idea of Belichick out, Vrabel in, I loved it, but I don't see how it's going to happen. Now, Lombardi, take everything that he says with a grain of salt. He says that Vrabel's already having problems with the new GM, so maybe they are going to a divorce this year. But I can't take anything from this conversation from Mike Lombardi in a serious matter now. But Samter, like, that would be great. Like, I would even give up a draft pick to go get Mike Vrabel as the next head coach of the New England Patriots.
I mean, it feels like they're just grooming Gerard Mayo to be the guy. So if Belichick does leave, so if you had to choose between former Patriots stars, I mean, because obviously Vrabel has the...
He's done it.
Yeah, he has the history. But, I mean, Gerard Mayo...
I love Gerard Mayo.
He's been there. He knows that team. He has the relationship with Kraft. Don't you think that there's kind of like a...
Well, I hate to say it. I know he's been there for longer than just this stretch of poor play, right? He's been there good times as a player, good times as a coach. But as of late, there's no one on that staff that I need to have. There's no one that I need to have with what that has become in the last 2 years. As much as I think Gerard Mayo can be successful, he was practically an extension of the coaching staff when he was playing. But Mike Vrabel has won with less in this league. Mike Vrabel had Ryan Tannehill in an AFC championship game.
I mean, Ryan Tannehill is a legit NFL quarterback.
Okay. When you say a legit NFL quarterback, you are not wrong, but you say that with the bleep-eating grin, knowing that you would never call him a top 10 quarterback. So, is he competent? Is he better than people make him out to be? Sure. Does anyone say, oh, even when Tennessee was going to the AFC Championship game and they were down 9 or 10 points right out of the gate against Kansas City, no one thought Ryan Tannehill was playing in a Super Bowl. So Ryan Tannehill is above average, He's solid.
I wouldn't even say above average. He's average.
Wait, but you just said he legit. Now, can you make up your mind here? You're driving me crazy.
Average. Average is fine.
Okay.
If you're in the middle of the pack, then you're fine.
You will agree,
you
though.
can win a Super Bowl by being an average quarterback.
You will agree, though, what Tennessee did in that 2-3 year stretch was more of a product of coaching than it was them having this great roster.
It was a product of Derrick Henry being unstoppable than anything else. But yes, definitely more coaching than it was Ryan Tannehill.
Running the ball, though, with a good head coach. That's not a 2023, 2024 formula for success, but Mike Vrabel showed that he could win with less. I'm not excusing Henry. Henry was a stud.
I'm a big Vrabel fan. Love him. And I love him as his personality, too. Him and like Dan Campbell, they had that cut from that same cloth.
Yeah.
So I love Vrabel. I just feel like Gerard Mayo has earned his stripes. He's been with the Pats since 2019 as a coach. He was a player for years. He has that relationship with Kraft. It feels like it's just kind of like they're grooming him to be the guy.
That's fine. Now, I can't get Vrabel, let's say. I'm good with making Gerard Mayo the next head coach. But if I could get Vrabel, it's the same thing like the Justin Fields situation, where I think Justin Fields has done enough to get the job for next year. He has showed me enough. I know what I'm getting. So, yes, you could have this hope, this potential. You could tell me someone's going to be great, but until I see them do it, you don't know. And I would, Vrabel has been a better coach than Fields has been a quarterback. Let's be clear about that. But I do think the Patriots should explore every potential option in getting Mike Vrabel to back home to one Patriot place. And, by the way, Vrabel went into the Patriot Hall of Fame this year. I've never seen a coach on his bye week go to another team's stadium. I know it's different when he's getting honored. And sit in the owner's box for the entirety of the game. So I know we live in this world where, you shouldn't tamper, blah, blah, blah. I would imagine there were some conversations that weekend. That would just be a guess, right? It's the NFL. What do we think now? The NFL, they do everything the right way. We just had an owner throw a drink at a fan this weekend. and that's what we at least see. We know a lot of other stuff goes on behind the scenes that the NFL would never want to see come to light. Update time. Here he is, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Rams are playoff bound, and head coach Sean McVay seems to be re-energized. Unlike last year, when there was some uncertainty surrounding his future after a 5-12 season, the Rams head coach said on his show there's no question he'll return in 2024. Dalvin Cook's brief tenure with the Jets is over, with a mutual parting of the ways that allows Cook to hook up with a playoff team. He carried the ball just 67 times this year. The Sixers have been chasing the Celtics through the first 2.5 months of the season and open 2024, 4 games back of the division and Eastern Conference. They're back home tonight to host the Bulls. Philly split a 4-game road trip, dropping the finale after back-to-back wins. Head coach Nick Nurse happy despite Joel Embiid's absence.
That was a difficult road trip. And without Joel the whole way, I think that I kind of said it, looking forward to it, and we needed it. And I'm glad that we got out of it 2-2. Right? I think any of the wins on that road trip were all going to be hard, and we were able to pick off 2 of them.
The aforementioned Celtics have won 6 in a row and are on the road to take on the Thunder, which has won its last 4. And the Hornets look to snap an 11-game skid tonight in Sacramento. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Jim Rome is on CBS Sports Radio. Make it a must-listen-to part of your day. It all starts at high noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All righty, wrapping up shop. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So the biggest story from now until the national championship game is going to be Jim Harbaugh's future. I do believe Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL next year. Regardless of the outcome on what transpires between Washington and Michigan on Monday night, as long as Harbaugh, and that's the big thing, he's got to be offered a job. But as long as he's offered a job, I think he's gone. Now, 2 years ago, he was very selective. He interviewed with the Vikings. He had that 12-hour interview, and they ended up not going with Harbaugh, and they hired Kevin O'Connell. Now, last year, it seemed like he was begging. And I think I had a conversation with Carolina. There was some speculation about Denver, too, and nothing ever came out of it. And Harbaugh, every time he comes back, he goes, this is where I want to be. This will not be a yearly occurrence. And that's after the decision has been made. But I got to think, when you look at all these potential openings, that someone is going to give him an offer. Like, let's go. How many openings do you think we're going to have? AFC East, probably just one, and that will be the Patriots. I don't think Saleh should be back, but I think he will. And Woody Johnson even already said it. I think McDermott is safe, too. AFC West, you have the Raiders that are already open. You have the Chargers that are already open. You know the Chiefs and the Broncos aren't making a change. AFC North, everyone's going to be safe there. Tomlin is not getting traded. AFC South, maybe Vrabel with some of this speculation, but I would still be surprised. And then you go into the NFC, Commanders will be open. You know, even though I just said Sirianni should be fired, I still don't think he will be. I think McCarthy's safe, and I think Daboll is back. The NFC West, everybody's safe there. Gannon's having a good first year. We know what Pete Carroll could do. Sean McVay is a phenomenal coach, and Kyle Shanahan's Kyle Shanahan. The NFC North, we thought the Bears would be open. It appears that Eberflus, though, is coming on back. You know, isn't this wild? You know, I saw a report today, Dennis Allen is probably going to be back. Todd Bowles is probably going to be back. We know the Panthers are already open. And I do think the Falcons should move off of Arthur Smith, and that would be a good landing spot for Harbaugh. You know, 8 weeks ago, let's guesstimate there, we would have thought 10 jobs would have been open. I don't think 10 jobs are going to be open. And that's already knowing that the Chargers are open, the Panthers are open, and the Raiders are open. But if the Raiders don't get Jim Harbaugh, they should hire Antonio Pierce. Maybe 6 or 7 at most are going to be open. And, like, you're trying to make a big splash? You're a new owner and Josh Harris. Why wouldn't you hire Jim Harbaugh? And that's the thing. What is Harbaugh going to prioritize? Is it who has the quarterback right now? If that's the case, it should be the Chargers. Who's going to give them the most control? Well, it could also be the Chargers because they also got rid of their GM and Tom Telesco. The Commanders are going to be cleaning house. They can hand over the entire organization. You know, I think Terry Fontenot is going to be back with the Falcons. But if they get rid of Arthur Smith, I don't think you let Terry Fontenot get in the way of Jim Harbaugh. So he's going to get an offer. He will get an offer this year. And I think that's what he's been wanting. Because once he beat Ohio State, he had an out at his university, a place that he does love. And then he beats Ohio State, wins a Big Ten championship, doesn't get the Viking job, comes back, does it again. And now this year it was, oh, you can't win a college football playoff game. Well, he just did that yesterday. And now they're 60 minutes away on Monday night from winning a national championship game. So he could stay and get a $125 million contract, but you don't want to have to deal with the NCAA who are coming after you for not only one infraction, but now this whole overblown sign stealing scandal too. So you're probably going to have 2 punishments. I think I would love to have Harbaugh stay. I think he's great for college football. And college football, right, same as college basketball, we know these teams based off their coaches. Like, there are legendary coaches in both college basketball and college football. And, right, the coach is the CEO of the program. It would be great with what Harbaugh brings to keep him there at Michigan. But he has been begging for an offer now for 2 years, and he does enough to get a second job in the NFL. And he'll get one. Here is Jim Harbaugh when asked about his future at Michigan after the Rose Bowl victory to send Michigan to the national championship game.
I wonder if you can tell me what the chances are that the championship game might be your last one at Michigan.
My future consists of a happy flight back to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Can't wait.
There you go. Now, I'm not an expert. And I'm like, you see the video of Harbaugh after the game screaming the I'm proud to be a Michigan Wolverine song and all that. Like, you know he loves Michigan. But it doesn't mean he doesn't love the NFL. And it's an easier lifestyle, too, to be an NFL head coach compared to being a college head coach with the transfer portal now and NIL and all that. And you have done everything and have exceeded expectations, and you have brought Michigan back. And the last thing to do is to win it all Monday night, which that's going to be a great game. Oh, that's going to be a phenomenal game. And ultimately, I do think it comes down to what Michigan does best. Can they do that in the big game, which is going to be run the football with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards and keep Michael Penix Jr. off the field? That's how they're going to win the national championship game. But I'd be very surprised if we're sitting here in 3-4 weeks from now and Harbaugh's still the coach at Michigan. Because it means someone didn't offer him a job. I don't care how he spends it. It means someone didn't offer him a job. And if you don't want to offer Jim Harbaugh a job in the NFL, then I question everything about your organization, especially if you have a vacancy. All righty, that will do it for a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Big thanks to each and every one of you for kicking off the new year with us. I'll say it one last time. Get it out of the way. Happy New Year to everyone. We're going to have a wonderful year here on CBS Sports Radio with our brand new lineup. Start of the morning with Maggie and Perloff, then Bill Ryder, the legendary Jim Rome, then us from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. You got JR coming up in a matter of moments on many of these same CBS Sports Radio affiliates. Heard the debut of Bart Winkler last night. Love me some Bart Winkler. And then Amy Lawrence as well, and then all the great weekend programming that we have. So fired up to be here each and every afternoon. Big thanks to Moist Mike and also Stuart Kovacs. I guess we'll see Stu next week, as Stu has the greatest vacation schedule in the world. And a big thanks to Greg McElroy for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Big thanks to each and every one of you one more time. Happy New Year. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.